Kate Nash, writer and founder of Purple Space. We are delighted to collaborate with MSD, known as Merck, in the US and Canada on this Authenticity series, a collection of 7 conversations with extraordinary colleagues about their experiences of disability and work. It can be difficult to work for a large corporation and talk about your disability experience. That's true in the pharmaceutical industry and indeed across the full range of organisations that we work with at Purple Space. In publishing these conversations, MSD wants to help normalise the experience of disability by sharing the stories of colleagues with both direct and indirect experience of disability. In so doing, MSD aims to help colleagues with disabilities and allies to build resilience and trust, to make it easier for them to share their stories and, when it is required, request the adjustments or the accommodations they need to thrive. In this conversation, we meet Marco Rivera. Marco is a director for the Global Business Services in MSD, known as Merck in the US and Canada. Born and raised in Costa Rica, Marco has a degree in business administration and finance. With over 25 years of experience leading teams in the corporate world, Marco has spent the last 17 years supporting and promoting the DE&I agenda in the organisations he has worked for. We offer our thanks to Marco for sharing his experience as a father and caregiver to a child with a disability so that others might learn from his story and insights. I hope you enjoy listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed having it. Marco, so very good to see you again. Welcome.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, Kate.
Oh, a real pleasure. And I'm looking forward to our conversation together. And I wonder if I can start. We've heard in your introduction a little bit about you and what you do and what makes you tick. And so my opening question to you is, how does being a caregiver, a father to a daughter with CP influence your professional journey?
Well, it has influenced a lot, right? In many ways, right? Probably first of all, it's trying to get that balance, right, between the duties I have at work and my duties as a father and a caregiver, right? And trying to balance that out also with my wife, so that she doesn't have all the responsibility. Try to alleviate a little bit the load of that, right, and the time. So that for sure, and probably the other thing is, if I may, whenever my daughter, she was premature, 28 weeks. So spent about a month and 10 long days at the hospital, right? Whenever we took her home, the doctors told us that the damage that she had in her brain, right? She won't be able to see, she won't be able to hear, she won't be able to listen, she won't be able to talk, she won't be able to walk, right? So that's a very hard message to get, right? But we didn't just took that for granted, right? It's just, we put the efforts and we told ourselves, okay, this is what she's going to tell us, what she's not going to be able to do, right? We're just going to push and give her the tools and see what happens, right? And here we are, almost 18 years later, and she's able to see, she's able to talk, she's able to hear, she's able to walk. She uses a walker, but that's okay. So she moves around, and so she has done it all, right? Everything that we were told that she could not do, she has done it all, right? So she had the final call, And the lesson for us was just make sure we provided the proper tools
Yeah.
in order for her to be able to accomplish
Mm.
her different milestones, I
Yeah.
would call it, right? And of course, she didn't do it at the same pace of, well, I don't like to call it normal anymore, right? So she didn't do it at the pace, at the standard paces, I will call it, right? It has taken her longer to get to reach out each one of their different milestones, but she has done it all, right? So that's those are big lessons for me in order to bring that to work, right, as a leader.
Marco, it's such a powerful story, as we listen to you, and and expanding on that, as you look back, as a young parent 18 years ago, and then you look to yourself now, what are the lessons that you have learned, either for yourself or of others, through that process?
Uh, just give the chance and the opportunity
Yeah,
to people with disability,
yeah,
right? They can do much more than what most people think they can.
yeah. I love it. So, Marco, let's build on that. You have a really impactful role at MSD at Merck, and and so as you look out to the business community, as you look out to your business, what concrete steps do you think organizations can take to build a more inclusive and supportive environment for people with disabilities?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. I think that companies in general have gotten much better, but there's still a lot to be done. And let me share a story with you because it's being a father of a daughter with disability, right? You probably will think that you are very aware and that you know it all, uh, but you really don't until it happens to you as well, right? So a year ago, I torn my Achilles, right? And so I had a temporary disability. It's a long recovery, but I was using a knee scooter to move around. So I was here at the office, and I was moving around with my scooter, but just the entrance for me to swipe the badge and where the machine where you need to swipe it and get into the door, there was quite a few meters in between, right? So at least 50% of the time I missed the timing of opening the door because I needed to turn my scooter and open it up. And you don't realize that for some people that might be a challenge until it happens to you, right? And it generates it's demoralizing sometimes, frustration, whatever, not to make it, right? So that those are kind of simple things that until they happen to you, you don't realize that there's more things that could be done, right? And that's just talking about a facilities kind of thing, but definitely um, being open and listening to your people and what their needs are. It's something that it's a must, right, in order to provide the proper support and understand what kind of tools they need.
Yeah. So not making assumptions.
No assumptions, right? Because you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So being open. Another thing that has worked out pretty well for me is I'm very open about my situation with my daughter,
Yeah.
with my teams, right? Because I try to make the space. There's some appointments I don't miss. There's some medical checks. That's kind of twice a year, right? Which takes almost a week, so the team knows what I'm doing, where I'm going, and I always tell my teams, health and family are always first, right? So walking that talk and showing them, being transparent to them on what my situation is, that really helps them to open up, and that's the only way for us as leaders that we can know first and then work on providing the right tools to them.
Yeah. And Michael, that sets, you doing that is such a powerful thing to do. You act as a role model, and you act in a way that makes it easier for others to share sometimes very difficult information, whether they themselves are a caregiver or have a disability. You just make it easier for people to be who they are in
And
how they work.
yes, and another thing, people really appreciates that, and you don't really understand how much people appreciate it, right? Until the same example that I just gave about whenever I torn my Achilles, right? My my manager was super supportive, right? And I was really thankful for that.
Yeah,
And to me, it kind of comes a bit natural, probably because of all the situation with my daughter, right? And people always say thanks and thank you and thank you, and they're very thankful for that. And you don't really understand, right? Like for me, it's like, okay, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do.
yeah.
But when it really happens to you, people really, it's really great. It's a great feeling to know that your leader, it's backing you up and supporting with whatever situation you have.
I love it. And Marco, just building on that a little bit more, teasing out the lessons. What do you think are the things that make the most difference to people's ability to ask for what they need in an environment of trust?
Yeah, I think that transparency and communication, along with taking the time to know your people.
Yeah,
You really need to know a little bit of the background of your people and your situations, and having those, hallway conversations over a coffee, stopping by, saying hello, understand what they did through it, just have a conversation of what happened throughout the weekend, and this and that, and with that contact, right? You get closer to your team, and you start um, learning and knowing more about them, that and creating that reporting, right? That gives people confidence to raise their hand whenever they have a situation, in order for me as a leader to support properly.
yeah. Wise words, Marco. Wise words. What about thinking about other parents who may have a child with a disability? What advice would you give, say, a new parent who has a child with a disability?
Yeah, well, I would say never give up.
Yeah,
Give Push as hard as you can to provide the opportunities to your kid, because something we learn, all the all what the doctors said, my daughter just moved that barrier away, and was able to accomplish.
yeah,
So don't take things for granted, and just give your kid the opportunity to show. My wife and I, we talk about that it's that my daughter is the only one who will tell us what she can do and what she cannot do.
yeah. I love it. I love it. Do you know, Marco, as a 61-year-old woman who has had rheumatoid arthritis since I was 15. So, teenager diagnosed with a disability. And although great drug therapies, I'm conscious who I'm talking to, as well as great surgeons and great doctors have provided a huge amount in my life, it is about the optimism of others that really galvanizes you, and those people who create a space about the what if you tried this, etc., and
Yeah.
epitomize that so well. I love it, Marco. Moving on, just thinking about leaders more generally, I've heard a lot about what you do to support the disability agenda at MSD Merck. What, in your opinion, can leaders like yourself do to support and encourage people to ask for what they need? It can be enormously difficult for people with disabilities to ask. It can sometimes feel like a favor rather than maybe a right to an adjustment or an accommodation. But how can leaders support that process?
Yeah, definitely create that awareness all across the leadership teams, right? And the people managers.
Yeah,
Uh, to change that mindset and help them understand a little bit better on what it takes. Um, because, probably and unfortunately, the visible disabilities are very obvious, right? But there's a lot of invisible disabilities that if you don't get to know your team and you don't open that safe space for your team to raise your hand, then you cannot support
yeah,
because you don't know what you don't know, right?
yeah,
Unfortunately. So that definitely it's something that we work a lot with our people managers on creating that awareness. And just to give you an example, a few months back, there was one person that raised their hand and said, "Can I bring my service dog to work?" Right? And we just gave thought. It's like, well, why not? Right? We should take care of that. Now we don't have any policy around it or something, right? Because then you also want to be careful on that it's really a service dog and not just people taking advantage and bring whatever pet they have to work. But then we started working closely with HR and we developed a policy, and right now we have that person, it's allowed, and you see that person walking around with her service dog, and she's doing great, she's performing great, um, coming regularly to the office. And previously it was more working from home, right? But now that has encouraged her to come more to the office. And it has, also just by looking at the pet, everybody gets starting familiar. The word starts to spread out, and those are kind of big milestones for us in order to create that awareness all across the organization.
yeah. A wonderful story, Marco. And you illustrate how sometimes we don't always have the answers. We don't always know the types of adjustment that a business can deliver, but through openness and awareness and discussion, it can be possible to get to an adjustment that works for both. I love it.
Absolutely, right. And that's very important point that you bring up, right? Because there's a lot of things that we don't necessarily have the answer to,
Yeah,
right? Uh, but what we do have, it's the willingness to support and look for the right answer and the right tool for that person.
yeah,
And so just, you don't need to know everything, we just need to find who knows it
yeah.
and try to implement it.
I love it. I love it. So, Mark, I want to move back, if I may, to caregivers and your thoughts about some of the practical ways to build, I suppose, safety, psychological safety for employees who are caregivers, so that there's no sense of special treatment? How do you do that? How do you overcome that?
Yeah, that's very important as well, right? Because then people could easily misunderstand what you just mentioned, right? Any, like, it's a special treatment, but at the end of the day, if we are transparent with the team on a specific situation, right? We just need to make sure that we work, that we do, that we're one team, right? We support each other, we back up each other, and today it's me, tomorrow could be you, and the team will react the exact same way,
Yeah.
right? So having the team together, and of course there's, you cannot disclose the whole situation of what's going on with one specific person, right? But you can deliver that message to the team at 10,000 feet, right? People don't need to know the details of it. It's like, okay, so such and such needs some support from us. It's going through a situation that he or she needs to take care of, and we're gonna support that. We're gonna make these adjustments in order to provide that person the right support, and and just like that, I think that again, it's communication and transparency across the team as well.
Yeah, I love it. Very powerful, Marco. I As we start to close, I've got another couple of questions for you, Marco. How has your role as caregiver, I suppose, impacted on your leadership and advocacy? Have you changed over time?
I've changed for sure. um I think that not only having that openness, right? And because of having the situation with my daughter kind of makes you, or helps you understand better. But I think that what has changed the most, um, is that I have understand that me as a leader, I have the responsibility to provide the right tools to my people, regardless of the situation.
Yeah,
Right? It's not that I'm doing a favor. It's not that I'm being nice. No, I think that me as a leader, um, it's I am the one responsible to create that safe space to my team, and so that I can get that awareness and what they're going through, and then I do have the responsibility to provide the proper tools. Because a lot of people see it's like, okay, it kind of seems like if we're doing a favor or doing an exception, or things like that, and I think that no, right? It's a responsibility that us as leaders do have.
yeah. Again, very powerful words, Marco. And sometimes some organizations are challenged to find those leaders. So it's just super to be in conversation with you and your colleagues at MSD Merck to hear how seriously you take the responsibility as a leader. So as we close and we look to the future, and I'm again thinking about your wonderful 18-year-old daughter, the world changes so fast. 20 years ago, I'm not even sure if I was using internet. However, if you were to think about the future, what is your hope for the future for your daughter and for other people with disabilities who can expect so much more? What are your hopes?
Wow, I really hope that people with disability, regardless of the disability, have the same opportunity as anybody else, and and that they get the right tools to be successful just as anybody else, right? and that people with invisible disabilities will not have to struggle that much,
Yeah.
right? And also that the things have come part of our day to day and embedded in our DNAs, that these kind of conversations don't necessarily become special as probably they are today, right? Or unique, or I don't know, or just different.
Yeah.
It should be eventually that it gets embedded in everybody's DNA and be part of the of a regular day to day, that we don't have to make an effort in order to get there, right?
I love it. Marco, I love it. You set the bar high, and it's wonderful to see your passion and your commitment, and to know that
Thank you.
MSD Merck take this really seriously, you know. So thank you so much for being you. Thank you for sharing your story and some of your truths. And yeah, I very much look forward to us meeting again.
No, thank you, Kate. Thank you for having me, and thank you for giving me this space in order to share some of my stories and what we've been through, because hopefully it might help somebody else as well.
Without a doubt. Thank you so much, Marco.
Thank you, Kate.